Hey everybody, Bob Trollsby here to give you a quick primer for our defensive position group preview. We, similar to last week with our offensive position group preview, will be splitting this up into multiple episodes. This time just two parts. The first part is going to be covering off on the defensive themes as a whole, as well as the defensive line. So defensive ends, defensive tackles, the whole group will be in this first episode. The second part will feature linebackers, defensive backs, and special teams. And then finally, next week, keep your eyes, keep your ears peeled. We will have our Iowa State game preview with Jake Brend dropping. As many of us, if not most of us, will be making our way over to Ireland to watch the game for Farmageddon against Iowa State in a couple Saturdays time here on the 23rd of August. So just keep your eyes peeled for all of those. We're going to drop a couple of different episodes this week for the defensive position group preview, as well as special teams. And then next week, we're going to have our game preview with Jake Brend, previewing Farmageddon in the Emerald Isle. But I will, without further ado, send it over to myself to start the other episode.
Do you actually have to be on cocaine to be on this podcast?
It's a great day to be a Wildcat.
Cocaine?
Durfing?
What's up, everybody? You are listening to yet another edition of Cocaine Willie, the official K-State representative on the College Huddle. I am your commissioner, Bob Trollsby, and as always, I'm joined by my co-hosts, the good chef Andre Napier and Fireball Matt Marchesini. Before we get into the episode, we have to shout out our sponsor, Auntie May's Parlor, located at 616 North 12th Street in the heart of Aggieville. Auntie May's has been in business for 51 years and is an absolute must-visit destination in Aggieville on game days and school nights alike. And you want craft beer? They got craft beer. You want craft cocktails? They've got craft cocktails. They also have comedy, live music, and all sorts of other events every single week. Just taking a quick peek at auntiemays.com. Looking at their events, they've got Trivia Smackdown on Wednesday, August 13th. We've got the Underground Guitar Pull, which we shouted out last week. That's going to be on Thursday at 8 p.m. And we've got Auntie May's presents The Dirty Spoons on Saturday, August 16th. The best in 70s and 80s hit covers is coming to the parlor with Dirty Spoons on Saturday. So if you are not planning on going, maybe you should take a look at your schedule and try to throw some time at Auntie May's into the schedule. But again, they're at 616 North 12th Street in the heart of Aggieville. And be sure to tell them Cocaine Willie sent you. Also, just a quick plug, cocainewillie.com. You want some Wildcat Country Let's Ride merch? We got the t-shirt. It's here. You can order it online at cocainewillie.com. I mean, it's as simple as that. Shirts, hats, sweatshirts, hoodies, toddler tees.
It's hot. It's hot. It's all hot.
It's pretty good.
That's hot.
Tote bags for mom.
Tote bags for mom.
Bucket hats for the course.
Bucket hats for the dads.
Oh,
let's go.
Bucket hats for anyone. Bucket hats for bucket cats is what I like to say.
God.
Wow.
So today we're going to be previewing the defense in the position groups on defense, which last week we did a 3-part series where we previewed each of the position groups on offense, combined some of those episodes together. This week, we're going to start with the big boys up front. Last week we ended with the big boys up front. We're going to start with the big boys up front this week. I want to zoom out first real quick before we get into the individual position groups and before we start with defensive tackle. But this team, by all indications, is switching to more of a 4-2-5 look as opposed to the 3-3-5 that we've seen so much of, that, was popularized by Matt Campbell and Mike Gundy, and seemingly everybody in the Big 12 adopted it. And now everybody, maybe not everybody, but at least K-State seems to be mixing in more 4-2-5, mixing in some different looks, maybe potentially going to 4-2-5 as the standard. I guess just for the two of you, What do you see as the pros of moving more to the 4-2-5 direction? What do you see as some of the cons? Do you have a preference for the 3-3-5 versus the 4-2-5? Just curious, your thoughts overall on that switch and making that more of the go-to.
For me, listen, I think you're getting into semantics when you get to that 4-2-5, that 3-3-5, because really you're really just dropping down a linebacker. And I think the 4-2-5 helps with players that we kind of recruit where they're that tweener player, specifically like a Chidi Obiezor, who's a guy that has the frame that can build to a D tackle, but he's in a D, he plays that DN role. So you kick him inside. He's like a D tackle, but he's really just that edge guy that you had in the 3-3-5. He's just moving to that D tackle. And I think we had a couple of those guys on the roster. So I think it helps with that. It gives Toby kind of more of a home. So he's really, really out on the edge. I think it does solidify some of those edge players as true, like speed rushers that can get after the quarterback. That I don't know how often we'll be making that our base defense. I don't know. I think it limits the linebacker play because I think we have a good group of linebackers. And if you're putting one of them at the line of scrimmage or just replacing them all out with a defensive end, you're getting less of those guys on the field. So for me, I think it's just kind of how you view the positions and how we recruit the players that we have. So, it could go either way, but I think I prefer the 3-3-5. I think we've had a lot of success with it, but it's just about the numbers and what kind of player and body size you have out there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with some of what you said. I think this year I trend towards the 4-2-5. Just thinking about from a defensive line perspective, I know we're going to talk about the line in a little bit, but I think there's a lot of really good talent on the defensive line. And there's a lot of opportunity, to get guys on the field and circulate guys on the field. Thinking about it from a linebacker position, like obviously Austin Romaine and, Des Purnell are two guys that are going to be, said a lot on the defense. But some of the guys behind them, I not to say I get nervous about, but I just look from an overall talent pool and what I think is like the strongest position group out of the two, kind of taking advantage of some of that on the defensive line and having four guys out there, at least four who we say are defensive linemen, is going to be a little bit of a different strength for K-State this year. So I feel I trend a little bit towards 4-2-5, but I do know, and I do feel that it's almost going to be a little bit of a mixed bag this year. I think you're going to see, 3 down sets in certain situations, especially in certain games where you may need that third linebacker out there to be covering, whether it be in pass protection or not pass protection, but defending passes and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I see it from the defensive perspective.
I think also going more to that 4-2-5, I agree with you. We do have some very solid defensive ends, but I think our defensive tackle, which we'll talk about here in a second, if you're going a true 2 defensive tackle role with this 4 down line, I think our D tackle is a lot less talented and a lot thinner than our linebackers even are. And then not to include that you're losing a lot of your exotic blitzes that you would use that Klanderman loves to throw out every once in a while to send some linebackers home to get there. It really just depends on the personnel. So I have no qualms with either one if we're using the personnel right. I think Chidi has the body to shift down to the defensive tackle, kind of the defensive tackle position. But outside of that, I mean, you're gonna be expecting a lot more from Uso if you're going to go for a 4 down line. So it just depends on where we're going with our defense and how we're recruiting, in my opinion.
In general, when you look at each of those position groups, which one do you feel the most confident in heading into the season? And you can probably imagine my follow-up question to that, which is biggest question mark. But we don't have to get into intricate detail. Just tell me what are you most confident in? What are you least confident in heading into
of
the season?
front seven, or just all defense?
Any position group on defense.
I'd probably, depending on health, I'd probably say safety. And then I would probably, in my tier list, I would go safety, because I really think Gunnar Maldonado, if he's healthy, is probably an all Big 12 line safety. So is VJ Payne. So you got two right there. Then it would probably go linebacker DN, probably AB. I would probably go linebacker because as much as people think I hate Austin Romaine, he is probably the best linebacker we've had in quite a while. And then DN's just so much talent, and then D tackle, I think just because it's so, after you get past Damian, it's not that great.
Man, safety is a very intriguing pick because you think from the experience that we have back there, obviously with VJ, Colby McAllister, you're bringing in an experienced guy in Gunnar Maldonado, who is my key player, I think, on the defense this year. That's an intriguing pick. I think defensive end this is one of the strongest, I think, overall groups of defensive ends we've had in the program in a very long time. Toby, we obviously want to see him step up a little bit more, and hopefully he gets more play. But Chidi Obiezor, a lot of people talk about the athleticism of Jordan Allen. We've heard Ryan Davis's name a lot here during practice. Travis Bates, Cody Stuffle being a huge experience, coming back. I just think that there's a lot of flexibility in the defensive ends. Not even bringing up Jayshon Ross. Who knows if he's going to get a lot of play, this season, but he's an athletic guy that, could potentially play some defensive end. I think he could also play some in the linebacker spot, maybe, getting him out there just with pure athleticism. So I'm going to pick the defensive end group. I just think there's so many, there's a lot of mouths to feed from those positions. But the important thing is that's a group where if you have talent in multiple places and you're able to move guys out and sub guys in, those key moments where you just need somebody who's had a breath on the sideline, who can still get after the quarterback, still make plays in the run defensive game, I think is important. So I'm going to go defensive end.
Biggest question marks?
I kind of laid mine out already. I think it's D tackle. I mean, I think Damian is electric. I think he's really, really good. I think he's one of the better D tackles we've had. And I think he's in a long lineage of under Klieman, of those nose guards, defensive tackles that are just, whether they're undersized or just like under recruited or, just kind of they're forgotten, but then become studs. Eli Huggins, Drew Wiley. I mean, there's just a long list of guys, and Damian is kind of built in the frame of Will Geary, and he just gets it done. And I really love that. But then after that, you're expecting Uso to take a jump. And we all appreciate Uso coming back and getting that final year eligibility. He's kind of still fresh to football if you really think about it. It's his third year with K-State. But before that, I mean, he was JUCO, and then he wasn't even playing D tackle in Hawaii. So for me, then you're expecting somebody that really, really has limited experience. I think you're thinking of like, what's his name? Patrick Taki, then Big Mac. Are we going to get anything from him? He was a huge recruitment win, I thought, at the time. It's so thin behind them. And D tackle is so hard to find, and they get banged up. That's one of the reasons Uso coming back, but he's injury prone. So, man, I'm really worried about that. And if we're going 4 down, you're really expecting some of those defensive ends like Cody Stuffle being Chidi to help on the interior with those guys. So D tackle has me the most concerned of anybody on the defense, really.
I think the cornerback room is a little bit of a concern, and it's just because I think we have some names there that we anticipate are going to take a step up from the offseason, but until you get to actual game time, you're not really going to know. You have some returners like Justice James. I guess
Justice
it's not Justice Clemens now. Zayshawn Rich, who had a great bowl game for the most part, is somebody who we're expecting, to be playing, pretty consistently. We've heard Donovan McIntosh's name, but a lot of it's from the newcomers where we have a little bit of maybe a nightmare from last season and who we brought in and how that turned out for us, in the secondary. Marion Fortenberry, I think, is, going to be a guy that's going to have to step up in certain situations. You wonder what you're going to get from Jaden Rowe, the OU transfer. Is he going to be somebody that is going to be able to play some meaningful snaps, or are we going to be playing some freshmen in the secondary and the cornerbacks? So it's an area of concern, especially against some of these teams in the Big 12 that I think are going to have some really intensive passing offenses, to where you're going to be having to play, pretty significantly, against some really good wide receivers. Is this a group that is taking that step up in the off season in these practices and is going to be ready, to play a major part in what we expect this team is going to be this season?
All right, let's start with the big boys up front. So the defensive tackles, we'll get into that particular position group, but you're returning a ton of experience with Damian and Uso. You've got a ton of returners also in guys that haven't got as much playing time. Let's call it what it is. But you've got Mac, you've got Tomaszewski, Holden Bass, and bringing in Patrick Tackey from JUCO. So you've got returners in that regard, but you only really bring in one guy from the outside. But I want to talk about Damian. So Damian solidified himself. He's a bona fide top tier defensive tackle in the Big 12. Last year, he played a total of 461 snaps. He's got a track record of coming up clutch. I think when I look back at games from last year, that dude came up clutch in multiple different situations. But I think about the KU game. I think about even going back to 2022, the Big 12 championship game on the goal line stand. He came up clutch for that as well. But he solidified himself as a key leader on the defense. And we've heard stories about him being one of the vocal guys on defense that's really leading that unit and getting guys fired up before practice and hopefully before games. Just how important is it to have a guy like Damian be that vocal leader and having the experience that he has coming in clutch in those situations? How important is that to a defensive unit in the defensive tackle room where we've maybe not seen as much production from some of the other guys in that room as we have from a guy like Damian?
It's massive. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he has to step up and just productivity wise, he has to be the bell cow in that room. And some of that position in particular, statistically, they just don't pop on the stat sheet, but that's really not where they make their mainstay. And it's important because if we are sticking with the 3-3-5, being right over the center and kind of controlling the line of scrimmage on the interior, plugging basically two gaps, it's massive. But then as a vocal leader, this is his senior year. He's got to step up because you're really going to be looking at VJ Payne as the other upperclassman that's really, really proven himself. And I guess Austin Romaine is a junior now, and he's had 3 years of experience. But as a senior, these are the guys that, might end up being captains. They have to step up. He's a local kid. Really, he's got a lot of pride invested in this program. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does out on the field and off the field, grooming some of these younger guys underneath him, because you like you said, Tomaszewski, I think he could be really, really good and just be exactly like Eli Huggins was, where he was kind of like that 285 frame and then built himself up. And then now he's a mainstay. So as long as he's teaching people, and I'm almost 100% sure that he is being that vocal leader, this is a picturesque K-State story. A local kid, D tackle, he's got the arm sleeve now too. So
a champion wrestler. He's a father already. The dude, he's a grown man.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So I'm really looking forward to Damian really showing the world, especially on versus Iowa State and Ireland. Could be a coming out party if he can. Let's get him a sack.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. He made such he just improved such as a player last season. And if you scratch the surface of the same amount of improvement in this offseason, expectations are going to be high for him. I'm excited to have Uso Seumalo back. You have experience coming back. And a guy like him who I thought had a good season last year. I don't believe he ever got hurt at all during the season, which is important.
He played every game. Yeah, he played every game. Games
okay.
at 343 snaps. So
yeah, but he's also somebody that I think is going to have to make some inroads. And you think about 2022, he had some really big flashes in 2022, and that's why a lot of people kind of knew who he was at that time. But then you get to kind of the past couple years, I think we maybe had a little bit more of an expectation of him. And it's not that he played bad by any means, but there were times where I felt there was a little bit of a disappearing act with him a little bit. And so with Damian, I think it's great that he has this competition of a guy who really ascended last season. How can Uso improve, especially in the last year he's going to play college football. It's going to be vital. You can't have Damian Ilalio playing 99% of snaps or 90% of snaps. You have to have capable guys that are going to be next to him or behind him, depending on the situation that you're running at the line. So, to have this pair is huge for this defense. And it's going to be important to see how they work together and how they work with the defensive ends in both the run defending and pass defending this season.
How much do you see Uso elevating his play from previous years to this year? Or do you think he's fine doing what he's been doing and coming in and being more of a backup role for a guy like Damian, or do you see him taking a big step this season?
Man, I mean, like you said, with the different fronts, I mean, he could be massive. He might need to play more than he's ever had to.
Side by side,
but if not, him being a role player to give Damian, like Matt said, so he's not playing 99% of the snaps, and we can have a trusted nose tackle out there. That is a role that is almost dire need on every football team. You have to give these big guys breaks throughout the game, especially with some teams going breakneck speeds or whatever. That if you're going 8 plays on a series, you're going to be gassed for the next one. You got to have somebody that can go in there and give these guys a breather every once in a while, and that is an important role. It's not a role that's like a backup quarterback necessarily, where you might not play the entire game. You're going to be playing. You're going to be playing a lot. So I think him stepping up, even if he's capped out and he's doing what he did last year, I'll be okay with that. I am okay with what Uso provided last year, as long as he can stay healthy, as long as he can, be a solid backup. He's serviceable to me. He's very serviceable.
Nothing to add there, Matt. So I do want to talk about the depth in that room, because as we all know, Klandy and this staff like to rotate quite a bit. And we've got a lot of, I would say, mostly unproven talent. When you look at a guy like Tomaszewski, he had 40 snaps last year. Holden Bass was a redshirt last year. Mack, we really only saw on special teams. And then Tacky had 19 tackles at the JUCO level where he was playing last year. How much do you see some of those depth guys rotating in realistically? And how much of a risk is it that we have so much lack of experience behind Uso and Damian?
I mean, everybody's inexperienced until they're experienced.
So wise words. That's 3 weeks of vacation from Chef right there.
Wow.
Get him in there. Get him in there.
Look, I think it's going to be important for some of those guys. And look, I think there'll be some surprises with who they're going to run out of defensive tackle too. I think Chidi Obiezor will get some time. I truly believe that there's going to be some defensive ends that we've perceived to be defensive ends for the time they've been at K-State that are going to get some time in a 4-down set as a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
And so, Tom Mazewski got time last year. Malcolm Alcorn Crowder is a guy that I hope we get some. I really hope if we can see him on the field, and not because we got guys that are injured and he's next man up, but because he's shown some stuff in practice. It's hard because I think, look, Damian and Uso are obviously the kind of A graded guys you would call A graded on the defensive, as defensive tackles. So there's going to be some depth guys that, played last season, but I would not be surprised if we see some guys that we perceive, and have perceived to be defensive ends that get some time in a 4-down set as a tackle.
That's what I was saying at the beginning. I think we have some of those guys that have the frame to do that. I think Cody Stufflebean, probably one of the stronger guys on the team. He holds up. I think he can hold up on maybe a 5, maybe a 3 tech, right over the guard. I could see him doing that. I wouldn't want that continuously throughout a game and on a drive. On 3rd down, that is huge. If you can get Chidi out there at D tackle on 3rd down, a 3rd down and 6, 3rd down and 8, in an obvious passing situation, he's so quick that he can beat one of those guys. And especially if we're going 4 down, those edge rushers are going to devote some of those tackles. The center's going to help on one. And if Damian's really good one-on-one, that leaves a lot of room for one of these D ends that could slide down to D tackle. I think Chidi is due for a big season. I've been gloating about him for so long on other podcasts, and we just haven't seen a guy with his size and his speed and that first person off the bus kind of frame in a long time. And that's who I'm excited about, really, because I would consider him a D tackle. In all honesty, I would consider him a D tackle. He's not the rush end like a Ryan Davis, or definitely not a Tobi Osensami. He's a different breed. And that's why I'm okay with this 4-down front, because we've recruited guys that are like that. We have guys that are like that.
Yeah. And Chidi has the pedigree too, because we've seen what his brother can do at TCU, and that's the same genes right there. This is blending into the defensive end discussion. So let's just get into the defensive end. So one of the things I love about this unit is how much returning, not starter depth necessarily in some cases, but you're returning a ton of dudes who have played a ton of snaps in a ton of games in their time at K-State. You've got 5 guys, Chidi, Jordan Allen, Cody Stufflebean, Travis Bates, and Tobi O, that played in all 13 games last season. You've got Ryan Davis, who played in 11, and he's been the talk of the town this offseason, as well as one of those guys who's going to make a big impact this season. And it's just a super experienced unit. And I think there's a lot of room, even with the experience you have, there's a lot of room for guys because you've got a big gaping hole that's being left by Brendan Mott all at the same time. So it's funny that you have this balance of, you lost a big piece of this defensive end unit last year, but you also have a ton of guys who are ready to take that on and take it head on. I think Chidi is a great example of that. I think Toby's a great example of that. You've got Cody Stufflebean, who's been there for 12 years at this point. At least we've been talking about him since his McPherson High days. So I want to give you guys an opportunity to glaze on this defensive end unit a little bit.
You want to glaze first?
Yeah. I'm going to Krispy Kreme this unit.
Oh, damn. Oh,
like glazed donut. I'm excited about this group. As I said, I think the defensive ends are the strongest group. I think they're the most, they're obviously, I would say, obviously, I don't know is the right word, but experience group. It's a group that I think the talent is there to where you don't really know who's going to be starting in quotations. Everybody, we've talked about Tobias and Sami for like 2 years now. Is this the year that he really steps it up in the offseason, develops more of the technique that he needs to be out there more than on third downs? Ryan Davis, we've heard so much about his name. He's one of, I think, the players on this defense, if you think about it later on in the year, of who's like your MVP, of the defense. I think he's like a dark horse to be that. I really see the talent there. You see the glimpses of what he provides. I'm excited to see what he can do. Cody Stufflebean coming back is important just from an experience perspective and keeping some continuity in the room. I mean, this is a room that, you lose maybe a couple people, but like everybody out there, has been in the program for a while now. And so I'm excited. I'm really excited about this group. We think about, the years where you've had, really good pass rushers and you've had two really good, defensive ends. Having that is extremely important, getting pressure to the quarterback and, getting, trying to create mistakes because of your strength, and being able to rush the quarterback or, getting to the running back and causing tackles for loss and just negative plays. This is the group I think that's from day one going to be the one that provides that. So I'm super excited. I really am about this group.
Yeah, and you got every right to be excited. And that's not even to mention guys like Travis Bates. I mean, Travis Bates had a quiet, like sneaky good season last year. And he's one of those guys, just another guy that's 6'3", 270 pounds that can slide down the interior and get it done. I like where Travis Bates is at, just a guy that's willing to play his role. And when he gets spot time, he makes it happen. I think even some of the freshmen, I think Dalton Knapp, he could be somebody that on third down, he reminds me his frame. Now stick with me. And this was a totally different era. And it's not going to, his career is not going to turn out the same way, but he reminds me of Elijah Lee. Like Elijah Lee, his freshman year was literally a speed rushing D end that would line up like 4 yards wide of the tackle and just a dead sprint to the quarterback. I can see maybe if things, not if things go sideways, but in a particular instances where he's got 4 games to burn, if he's ready and he's 6'4", 225 pounds, why not give him a shot, on third down and 12 to get out there and just all you got to do is rush the quarterback. Don't even worry. If he gets out, we got a spy, whatever. I could see somewhere like that, but I'm just excited about this unit. I mean, I'm going to toot my own horn. I called Toby a long time ago. I said he's going to probably be one of the best defensive ends that we've had. And we can clip that episode right here. But but yeah, I'm excited about all these guys. There's tons of talent. And I keep thinking, like, when Matt says their experience, I keep thinking of like Jordan Allen because he hasn't, flashed that he's still a young guy. Dude's like a redshirt sophomore. He's been in the program. They have experience. They've played. And Ryan Davis played. Colorado was a huge game for him. Toby Osunsami obviously played. They get it done. So it's their experience, like Matt said, for me, they're underrated. So I'm really, really excited to see where they can go and the versatility that they have. It's deep. It's deep.
And neither of you have also mentioned Jay Sean Ross, who you bring in. That's a huge transfer portal add.
Huge, but I don't know where
does he fit in? He's in a stacked room.
That's the crazy part because it is a stacked room, and he was a 4-star, went to Bama, got the Bama, body by Bama. You would assume that he's ready to prime and ready to go, but honestly, I haven't heard anything about him this offseason. So I don't know if that's if he's ready to work, if he's ready to do the K-State thing, maybe it's just 1 year and then it's on and popping in 2026. I don't know, but if he does somehow emerge in 2025, I mean, that's just the cherry on top, right?
As always, who in this unit? So obviously Brendan Mott leaves the program, graduates, was Big 12 Defensive Lineman of the Year last year. Who in this unit is most likely to meet or surpass what Brendan Mott did last year? And just to reiterate the stat line, he had 49 tackles, 11 and a half tackles for a loss, 8.5 sacks, 1 interception, and 1 fumble recovery.
You want to go on 3, Matt? We'll say our names at the exact same time.
Okay.
Bob, you count us down on 3. We're going to say it on 3.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Ryan Davis. I love it. I think not only because he is a Caucasian man, but I mean he has the ability. I think he has the size. He's got that twitch, and I think he has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. If I'm being honest, when we recruited him out of Arizona, I wasn't the highest on him. I wasn't. I was like, man, we got freaking Jordan Allen. We've got studs in this class, and we got Ryan Davis. But then Ryan Davis, he was the first one really out there. So I mean, I don't know. I think
a little like Austin Romaine a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's got that Austin Romaine in him. Where I was like, I've been dogging Austin Romaine for the longest. I've been poo-pooing Austin Romaine since I can remember. So maybe I'm doing the same thing with Ryan Davis, but I'm going to give Ryan Davis his flowers because I think he has the ability to fill that stat line more than anybody else.
Yeah, I just believe in what we've seen in kind of his sample size, and believe in offseason improvement. And I really like his game on the line. I really do. I think he could come in and be that type of caliber player. I think we need that type of caliber player overall. Obviously Brendan Mott, had such a great season last year. It's going to be important again. You need to have a guy you need to have consistency and who can rush the quarterback, who can get by, their defender or the offensive line and make plays in the backfield. From what we saw last season, I really believe in him. I think he's the real deal.
And he was the 6th person in, the 6th K-Stater to win Big 12 Defensive Lineman of the Year. So he joined Felix, who won it twice, Meshach Williams, Ryan Mueller, and Jordan Willis.
I didn't know if you're going chronologically or what, but I was going to say
Felix won it twice though, which is, I mean, that's just crazy. But so that would make him. Remind me, did Jordan Willis play at all in the Klieman era?
No.
Right.
We had Wyatt Hubert in the Klieman era, first year. How did Wyatt Hubert not get any D-line of the year? I mean, he was really good too.
Well, and then he had that injury after getting drafted to the Bengals. Never really panned out in the NFL, which is a shame. But we're not here to talk about Wyatt Hubert. But Zach Zumwalt had a question from his meets or exceeds questions. He's just curious, sack leader for this season.
I'm gonna say
Ryan Davis.
I would say Ryan Davis, but I'm gonna go different because I mean, you asked me who I think could fill that position.
Yeah,
I don't know if we're necessarily going to have a ton of sacks this year. I don't know.
Man, you think so?
You think we're going to have a ton of sacks?
I think we will.
Honestly, I thought our sacks would come from the linebacker position, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say Cheedy. I'm going to say Cheedy.
Interesting.
I'm going to say Cheedy. And it kind of contradicts the Ryan Davis thing, but I think Ryan Davis, I mean, it's just for me, the Ryan Davis comparison to Brendan Mott is too easy. And I think Cheedy's going to clean up But
And it's the Brendan Mott question is more so like Brendan Mott was an all around great.
right,
defense.
yeah,
Like he did
exactly.
everything. He did it all.
Yeah.
So that's where more so that question was going. Okay, Matt, you
Mm-hmm.
scoff. You scoff.
I mean, if we are going to pick who we think is going to be the best defensive end for the year, I heavily weigh sacks as a part of my determination of who's going to be the best player.
Agree.
Because if, let's say, he has 5 sacks and
Who?
Ryan Davis,
Okay.
Davis, let's say he has 5 sacks, and let's say Toby Osunsanmi has 8.5, 9.
Was Toby playing every down? Was Toby in on third down and cleaned up sacks?
If Toby,
or did Toby have 8 sacks and 25 tackles, and Ryan Davis, let's say the other defensive end, had 6 sacks and 50 tackles? I'm going to say that the guy with 50 tackles and played 100 more snaps is the better defensive end.
Okay.
And especially because
I don't think there's a wrong answer here.
No, there's no wrong answer. The thing is, it's funny because if they would have single covered Felix Anudike-Uzomah, he would have had 100 sacks. But they got double teamed and triple teamed every play. He's the best defensive end, and that cleaned up for who got a lot of sacks? Brendan Mott. Brendan Mott got a ton of sacks his junior year, or was it his sophomore year, because of Felix.
Oh, he played 5 years, right?
Sophomore year.
That would be
Felix's last year was 22.
Maybe sophomore year. I don't think there's a wrong answer here. I think it I don't think
sacks is the end all be all.
I don't think it's end all be all, but I weigh
it's important.
If I weigh statistics for who I feel, is the best defensive end, I look a lot at at pressure to the quarterback. I look at a lot of those pieces that's how I view it.
Right.
So, but there's no wrong answer.
Yeah, I also don't think that there's a wrong answer there. It's kind of, you slice it and dice it. Do you want more tackles? Do you want more sacks? Some could outweigh the other. It's more so situational, I think. All right, that's going to do it for the defensive line and defensive, overarching themes preview. So that's going to do it for us today on that one. Once again, shout out to our sponsor, Anti Maze Parlor. Visit them at antimaze.com for a full list of their upcoming events. And if you're stopping by, be sure to tell them Cocaine Willie sent you. We have our merch store up at cocainewillie.com where you can buy our Wildcat Country Let's Ride merch. So be sure to check that out as well. Place an order. Additionally, we are the K-State representative on the College Huddle, which is the largest community of fan-driven content in the nation. Check them out at College Huddle on social media and thecollegehuddle.com. And last but not least, you can follow our show at Cocaine Willie on YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, or follow us individually. I'm at Bob Trollsby. Chef is at Chef Andre Napier, and Fireball Matt is at Matt Marchesini. Coke, we're all Coke, and no joke. Wildcat Country, let's ride. Cocaine's a hell of a drug. The whole 9 yards. We're doing the whole thing. Wildcat Country, let's ride.